when something bad happen in life, these are opportunity for something to work on. Let's say you got angry and yelled at somebody, right? It might be a bad event, but guess what? That's the time for us to see that, we need to work with our anger. Let's say we lose a job, divorce, all of that. It might seem like, it's a bad event, and it is. But I think it also provide opportunity to work on things, right?
Welcome to the Mindform Podcast, where we delve into the minds of some of the most interesting people on the planet, discuss psychology, philosophy, and personal growth, and share the wisdom we uncover with you. Join us as we explore the art of forming our minds. Here's your host, Frank Lawton.
After he died, I was like, I had this really, really, really strong, whether it was like God telling me this or myself or whatever, but I just had this, I need to face this thing. Like, I really had this strong awareness that pulling back, disengaging, protecting myself from life I really had a problem with that in that moment, because I just had an awareness of the fleetingness of life and the need to be there for it. And I really also wanted to just honor my friend by being as present as I could for life. Just to go back to the lighter part of this, is like through the work that I was just doing moment to moment to moment as I was grieving, of trying to be present for life, all these memories came back. Like, for real, all of this. Yeah, I used to find it so hard to remember my childhood, and I do now, but like for a period of time there, I had a much greater capacity to remember my childhood. And I guess a question to you is, do you find sometimes with this focusing type of work that you do, this sitting with the feeling stuff, that sometimes hidden memories come up, or you get a clearer picture of your history?
Yeah. Now that I pay more attention, a lot of flashback. Some flashback does carry a quick flash image that run across. And also, when I catch myself criticizing somebody or something, actually, if you hold on to a little bit, if I were to hold on and instead of like, thinking to myself, hey, why are you so criticizing on others? If I were to hold on to that a little bit, there is an image flash of my parents literally talking in their voice. It's exactly thing what I said. And that
Wow,
is,
yeah, that's incredible awareness, Vin. That is amazing. Go on.
yeah. And the crazy thing is, it doesn't happen like right away. You just gotta wait for a little bit, and then it shows up.
Sort of just,
And
yeah, go on.
yeah. So it's almost like a lot of things bump into a chain of reactions rather than just, like a single event. Like it's being recalled. Something I noticed that certain emotion, you feel it like heavy chest, and then a few seconds later, there'll be tightness around the head, and and you feel like tingling over here, running back and forth sometimes.
Mm.
Which means the brain is doing something. I have no idea what it does, but something's is doing something in there.
The cogs are turning. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really, really impressed right now, honestly. I'll just do the intro after I say this as well, because it's a couple minutes past 11:30 now. But I'm really impressed. Like, do you do mindfulness practices on the regular at all? Do you have a history of meditation?
I did before and then I stopped, and now I've been practicing, but I do meditate in the morning for about 10 minutes. But what I try to do is like I come up ways to be in the present. And literally all of it is just sensation. I mean, you want to be in the present,
Same.
stick
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sensation, and you're in the present.
yeah.
And another trick for me is to look up at the clouds. For some reason, let's say if I'm driving, right, and I feel like, I'm getting distracted and stuff like that, one of the best way for me to bring our attention back is look to the clouds. For some reason, I don't know, it's the expansiveness, kind of like, you
Oh yeah.
know, so
Same.
that's another thing that I have not understand why either, but it works. So,
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I just like, as you're talking about, well, there's different language for this, but neurolinguistic, NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
they talk about a lot of this stuff where it's like there's this the brain language, right? And it's you get a sense for the quality, the character of aspects of your conscious experience and the way they relate by looking at things like, like what are the attributes of the images that pop up in your mind? Are they bright? Are they dark? Are they sudden? Are they large? Are they small? Are they fast? Are they slow? And the sounds, are they loud? Are they dim? And then the sensations. Are you tense? Do you feel light? Do you feel fuzzy? And you learn people play out, like as a therapist you learn, or as a NLP practitioner you learn this, that people play out all of these attributes of their internal experience even if they're not aware of them, even if they can't articulate them. They play them out in how they talk, um, and you can ask prompting questions to get a sense for this, and it tells you things about what's going on within someone. But that's what has come to mind hearing you talk. Is I'm quite impressed. Again, I mean, I'm not, but I just genuinely am really impressed that, because it's a personal goal of mine. That you do have a sensitivity to a variety of different attributes when it comes to rapidly changing qualities of your inner experience as you go through an emotion, as you have a conversation or criticize someone or think in your head a criticism. Like that really does take a lot of awareness, and having an understanding of these things really is a major foundation for a really long and really powerful trajectory of transformation. Absolutely, that you can you can have this thought and go, oh, I think that was in my parents' voice, or oh, there was an image there. I swear, I just saw an image. What was that image? Just that's amazing. People just, that stuff just happen. It's happening all the time in all of us, but we
Yep.
just miss it. We don't really notice. So really, props to you for noticing. But hey, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'll do the intro right now. Oh, so here we go. Kia ora from New Zealand. Welcome to the Mindform Podcast. My name is Frank Lawton. I'm a father, a husband, and a contemplator with a passion for ways of operating which better empower us to live wholeheartedly. The Mindform Podcast is an extension of the Mindform platform, and is similarly a space dedicated to exploring and altering psychological landscapes together. In each weekly episode, I'll spark a conversation to mine for gems of wisdom and collaborate on the game of architecting our minds. Most of our guests are members of the Mindform platform, and we're all big nerds for psychology, philosophy, and self-improvement. This week's guest is Vinh Tran. He's another founding member of Mindform, like myself and a number of our guests thus far. Vinh is a really active and supportive member of the community. He gets involved himself in the growth journeys we take together, and he supports others on their growth journeys, and he shares a lot of valuable insights, especially in the space of self-love and working with emotions. I'm really excited to get into more of a conversation with you today. Vinh, thanks for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I would love to keep talking about the topic we were just on. Vinh was sharing some observations that he's been able to make about his own psychology through mindfulness of what's going on in a moment to moment, when he's experiencing emotions, when he's having critical thoughts, that sort of thing. And yeah, I was just saying that I was quite intrigued and quite impressed at his capacity to notice really fleeting and precise attributes of his internal experience in these moments, being able to recognize that sometimes the inner voice that he's hearing might actually not be his own voice, but his parents' voice. Sometimes he can see that there was an image, a memory that flashed up in that moment with an emotion. I suppose, one of the curiosities I have around that for you, Vinh, is this is because this has been my experience. Have you found, have there been some internal attributes like that through noticing over a period of time have changed in like a permanent sense, that, oh, like you no longer hear that voice anymore, or you no longer have that particular internal habit after just having that pausing and noticing over a long period of time? Is that something you've experienced?
Yeah, there were a few that I was able to get rid of, and through two of the techniques that I recently learned is
Mm-hmm.
one is anger and the other one is grieving. So either you cry or you get angry. So
Mm-hmm.
so when these flashback or negative images of verbal whatever happen, you can either get angry about it, tell the person who said that, say, hey, you've been teaching me not the right way, or I don't need your teaching anymore. From now on, I want to go learn, about things that actually make sense to me. And another way is grieving. It's literally bring these memory up, and then just literally pretty much cry it out in a way, just to see the younger self, what our younger
Mm,
self went through, and then pretty much try to see our younger version as like a different person that needed caring and loving, and of course I experienced what happened if somebody does not have that. So you can feel literally empathy for yourself, and self-compassion really begins with that, when you started asking about what's right for yourself. Not just
mm.
only right for you, but like it's like things that you deserve to be treated fair.
How does talked about as well, just briefly when you're talking about self-compassion there, the younger self, and I'm really interested in that because I have it resonates with me. Like I feel like that's something important for me to be hearing. Um, but I've just seen it come up a few times in recent conversations. Is what is the importance of thinking of or connecting to the younger self, as opposed to just yourself as you understand you are now in this sort of grieving process or the self compassion process?
Wow, that's a good question, Frank. I personally think, for me, especially for me, when I started connect to my younger self, I get to see how I was, and why did I became the person I became, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these bad habits or good
Right.
habits, there has to be a reason why these were developed, right? Um,
Right.
and then, yeah, pretty much, you get to see, or our history, you know, things that we went through. And a lot of these actually change how we view the world, right? If somebody went through experiences where the world is crushing them, well, they it's they're gonna come up with a mindset, me against the world. Versus if somebody where literally they felt like the world is helping them crafting, they gonna change their perspective of the world as well.
Yeah. Do you find so I'm really interested. Julian's talked a lot about this his transformational change space on Mindform. He's talked about transformational change, right? And one of the core ideas there, I mean, part of it is this feeling what's going on and holding feelings and holding compassionate awareness of feelings, and some of what we've been talking about. And part of the understanding of how this whole process works is that you kind of bring up the moment of emotional learning that started you down a certain track. You kind of reactivate that so it's similar to how it was in that moment. Like, so say for example, yeah, you're a young person, just a whole sequence of shit things have happened to you at a period of time, and you sort of make a decision like, okay, you know, it's me versus the world or something, some vague kind of emotional learning like that. And to activate that again and to bring awareness into that space. So maybe would you agree then that part of the value of connecting to the younger self is you can actually bring up that past decision and make a new decision through that? Would you say so?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Frank. Matter of fact, that's one of the way to deal with these flashback is we got to generate the memory back, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it's not too heavy for some of those that went through that. But majority of the time, we can recall these memories and absorb the feelings. Because
Yeah.
before, most likely, even if we absorb it, we didn't absorb correctly,
Mm.
right? I mean, we didn't know anything about emotions as a little
Yeah.
kid, right?
Yeah. You don't know if you can handle it or not, right? But you know, as an adult,
Right.
you can just handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. you know, Especially that, as young age, I recently found out I'm actually very what do you call that? Sensitive to emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that I get anger a little bit easier, I cry a little bit easier. So for some reason, emotion hit me really hard. But in my younger years, whenever I were to express and show these, I get punished for it, right? I cried, and my family would record it and then replay it and make fun of me some more, and then to a
Wow.
point where
It's horrible.
yeah, my family used to bring up, make fun of me when I cry, and where my teeth are like literally clamping, like nonstop, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I get older, I know that this deep anxiety a kid is having. So not just only, not just only it was allowed, but it was a punishment to show these. And over time, the brain does pick up ways to, figure out ways how to deal with it to minimize pain for you know, for the person.
Mm. Yeah, when you tell that story, I think about my own son who's 2 years old, and I mean, it's a serious art and a serious science and a serious skill to master. How do you handle a 2 year old's emotions? How do you handle a tiny person's emotions? Because they are big and they're unfiltered, and you're not used to it, right? Because out in the world, everyone's tempering their emotions. There's conventions about the appropriate ways to express your emotions, and I try so hard. Like, it's a strong intention of mine to yeah, just figure out and then live out the best way to hold his emotions. Okay, oh, you're feeling really overwhelmed, you're feeling really frustrated, or whatever my best guess of his feeling is, and sitting with him there, and trying to use my face to show that I'm calm, but also I'm feeling your feelings a little bit. Like, it's a total, like, how do you give a child what they need in that moment? And
Mm,
every now and then, when it's just really confusing for me, um, like, I just couldn't even begin to guess what's going on, that is making him feel such big emotions. He's 2, so that happens, and it's really intense, and I'm a bit preoccupied. Honestly, that's a coping strategy for me as an adult, because I can't handle that. It's too much for me, right? Because I have my own emotional immaturity, as we all do, like our own limitations there, and that I don't film my son and laugh at him. I would never do anything like that. But having that sort of, like, laughing it off, that's a coping strategy for me. And so you can see. So it's just interesting to see, like, when you first shared that story, I was like, oh my gosh, that would hurt so much to deal with that, and I can imagine the impact that would have. But I can also actually relate to the experience of being a parent in that, and not knowing, just being afraid of these emotions, and humor or something, or dismissing it being your only way of handling that.
I'm still trying to learn how to deal with my son's emotion, but I guess one of the ways that I learn how to cope is, I just come over and hug him. I mean, like, I'm
Mm,
not saying anything, but I think that provides emotional support as well. Sometimes when people are feeling bad and sad, they just need somebody to hug them. I
yeah,
wouldn't say just need, but at least
it
something
helps.
that we all can do that is very easy, can be easily done. Just hug
Mm.
them, let them metabolize it, with somebody who shows some sort of care for them.
How old is your son?
He's turning 7.
Oh, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's got all the complex emotions almost at this age. Hey?
Yeah. But they do get easier later on, Frank. How
Okay.
old? How
Yeah.
old is
Okay.
your son?
He's only just turned 2 a month ago,
Okay.
so it is kind of like peak not knowing how to
Yeah.
handle his feelings time. Yeah.
I would say after 3, everything gets easier because you can tell them to do things. They understand things. They can talk a little bit. Be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can you grab me the TV remote? And it's just like small stuff. Life gets much easier.
Oh yeah, and you can ask. I mean, for me, what, because I'm sort of working on this. Like, he has a very minor emotional vocabulary at this moment. Like, he knows happy and sad. General good feeling, general bad feeling. Which a lot of us still have that simple way of categorizing emotions. But and he can see that in other people or like in characters in books. But I really look forward to when I can say, what are you feeling? And he can tell me the feeling. And then I could also say, like, what are you feeling that about? Why are you feeling that way? And he can actually point to something because he has no idea. It's just, this is a big experience that's going on. I don't know how to handle it. And I have no suggestions. Of how you can help me deal with this. But you need to help me. Like that's the
Yeah.
current experience.
It's almost
It's
like a
magical.
frustration feeling, right? Like
Mm.
frustrated. Now think of the interior when it comes to emotion. Imagine we got some sort of emotion, but probably half of us don't know how to express it in healthy ways.
Mm.
And that's literally what the inside is.
Yeah.
Frustration. you know, of course, we won't see it, but inside that's literally what tensioning and over time the brain said, you know what, I don't want to go through this again. We don't need to go through this again.
Absolutely. I think that is like even part of what speaks to the truth of what you just said to me is that that's the sort of second, third most common emotion I'm able to guess at with my son is like because yeah, he's got something big going on and it's frustrating that it's still happening and we don't know how to resolve it. Like it's yeah. Um and maybe you could go into it, you could have a whole sort of theorization about the role that frustration has in our society as kind of this baseline emotion, right? Because of our cultural ability to process and face emotions effectively, and so they just keep coming, and so we get sick of it and we suppress and yada yada yada.
Yeah. And yeah, not just only, some of us don't know how to express emotion properly. Some of us don't even know how to, express our mind properly either. So I'm sure there's a large amount of people that, feel frustrated all the time and they don't even know why they don't feel good,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, I mean, definitely, definitely, and I think it's interesting for us as people who have like a really active interest in just out of curiosity, right, in self development and emotions and trauma and better ways of thinking, all of this. Like, obviously, that's not an interest for a lot of people. You just go through your life, you feel what you feel, you do what you do. And there isn't, for whatever reason, there's not a massive curiosity for some people around the why and really questioning all of these things. And you wonder, in some ways, is that easier? Is that nicer to just feel the feeling and just be like, it is what it is, or almost not even be aware that you're feeling that frustration. You're just feeling the urge to have a drink, or just feeling the urge to yell at someone, and you just do it, and you don't have to wrestle. You don't have to wrestle with it. Um,
Yeah. I think it probably feels good in the beginning until later on it becomes a habit, and then I think a lot of people don't know what they're missing out, because I
mm,
remember,
absolutely.
yeah, one time I was watching this thing almost like affirmation that reprogram my subconscious, and the guy said, some of the best thing in the world, are not tangible but things that you can feel. And I was like, huh, like I'm missing out a big chunk here. This guy said the best thing in the world are things you can feel, and I'm over here missing out on all of this.
I'm over here not feeling anything. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
hey
yeah,
man, I'm just a cardboard over here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Blimey. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. Do you feel like, as as a dad, you talk about like you having your own flashbacks of experiences when you were a child. You're trying to relate to yourself as a young child, and you're 7 years old. The age of your son now is still sort of understood to be really a majorly formational time when it comes to like emotional learnings, and that how do those two things interact for you? I mean, like, because on the daily, you're trying to have an impact on your son's emotional learnings, and you're also trying to work through your own emotional learnings. How do those things interact? Yeah.
I would say being aware of my own emotion, with these sort of knowledge and practice, I can show my son later on. Because I remember when he was first born, I asked myself, like, what kind of person do I want him to be when he grows up, right?
Hmm.
And then after a while, I was like, so what can I do to help him become that person? And I thought about it for a long time. I finally came up with an answer. I have to be that person first. That's the
Yeah,
best way to show anybody is
of
to
course.
be that person, know how to do it, and then say, "Hey, you right? He got a role model to look up to, and imitate whatever, and knowledge to share with him." Because looking at my own environment, they don't know the things that they've done, right? Because to them, these are just normal behavior that they've, that their parents done to them, and probably their parents did it to their parents. So for them, it's, oh, that's just how you live,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I guess it's in a lot of ways it's the there's that sort of the valley before the rise. You know, they say of like it's chill, not thinking about it. That's lovely, all good. Who cares? And then the pain of actually having to question, oh, is this like right? Is the whole way I live my life? Is it the way I want to live my life? But then on the other side of that, you know, there's a new high, and even the moments in that process have that same pattern. Okay, I'm sort of unconscious. I'm going to sit with this feeling. Oh, that's really painful. What's this memory that's coming up that I've been comfortably suppressing all this time? You know, you have to be willing to face that so that you can come out and you've cried, you've whatever, and you're on the other side of that emotion. Even so, that's a pattern that is repeats throughout this whole process. A willingness to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. Um, the willingness to be uncomfortable, because every time these flashback happen, of course, we don't want to see it again. So we do let it ride automatic, or the body prefer to let it ride automatic, and over time just become a habit that it just happened like under the conscious level. So if we're not aware of these, we'll never even see it. It's just us being emotional. I mean, that's what people say. Oh, I was just emotional at the time, right? How many times we said that? Oh, I yelled at that guy, cursed at that guy because I was just emotional. But
Yeah,
uh,
you'll even say it wasn't I wasn't being myself. I was being emotional. You'll even say that.
well, trauma can come to a form. Let's say I used to know this one guy that he used to bully you, right? And then later on, you met somebody else who kind of looks similar to him physically. All that guy just need to say something, right? Exactly, something that you don't like, and you're gonna get a flashback of the other guy, and you're gonna take it out on him, but you won't realize that.
Absolutely.
You're just gonna say, "Well, that guy pissed me off," but there might be a reason why we kind of react a little bit more than how we normally act to that same situation, and
Yeah,
just
in
maybe
my
underneath.
in my journey with like communication and learning about better ways to communicate, which I'm still doing, but just a little bit slower. This is a book that is one of the books that I've read, and it talks a lot about that.
Ooh,
Um, it's really interesting. It's all diagrams as well. Like it's really well communicated. Just
uh,
as an example there, but it talks a lot about like it's playing through interactions with people and how they go and how do you want them to go, but there's always this thing of you're seeing someone, you're having an interaction with someone, and something about that person or something about the the dynamic of how you're interacting or whatever it is, it you operate in some historic way. It causes you to play out basically some old emotional learning where you're not actually seeing the human being right in front of you. You're
hmm.
seeing the memory, but because you haven't, and I want to ask you a question about this, but like because you haven't seen that it's a memory, because you haven't observed the flashback or sat with the flashback, because you haven't heard that voice in your own head that's talking about that person isn't your own voice, because um, you haven't even noticed. Oh, the reason that I feel really suspicious of this person is actually just because they look like that other person. Like because you haven't had that awareness, you're just seeing all your assumptions about this person, right? Instead of the human being standing right in front of you. My question is, how have you, I guess, gone from a place, presumably, at some point you were the same place as a lot of people where there's no awareness really of what's going on in your interactions with people or in your big emotions. It's just feeling it. It's just playing out automatic behaviors. What has been the process for you of building a capacity to notice, even in the moment, oh, actually, that's a memory, or oh, actually, this person just reminds me of someone, or whatever it is.
So, in the beginning, I guess before all this, prior to joining Mindform and all this, I thought my life was normal until things got really bad, where just literally just tossed me under a hole. And exactly, but underneath of that, when I'm down there, that's when everything show itself, right? Because let's
Mm-hmm.
say prior to that, right, I had a good job, good paying job, I got a wife, got a kid, got a house. Life is not bad. I don't need to change, right? At least in my mind, I was like, well, I do need to change a little bit, but it's not that bad. But when something really bad happened, like divorce and just a whole bunch of unfortunate event, just push me down underneath, that brings a lot of stuff out to the surface for me to see. And then
Mm.
from there, when you see a lot, and then you look at your life and you say, well, my life's been a whole big mess. You know, something's wrong. And then from there, one thing lead to another. And awareness does open many doors to our interior self, right? It's there the whole time. The funny thing about awareness is here the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even recently, I've been practicing a little bit. Let's say if I don't feel good, or if I ruminate about things, or if I have thoughts that focus on myself too much, the first thing I realize is this in the middle of your chest where the diaphragm is, that gets tightened and it feels like weight on it. But the moment you clear everything out, it feels good to breathe. It's almost like,
Mm.
after you hold your breath and you
It's so
finally get to
physical,
breathe,
yeah.
it feels good.
Yeah. No, it's amazing how physical it is. And after, like, again, for me, it's something that really comes in waves, my mindfulness journey. But like after I do these big, intensive meditation courses, just having a lot of hours consecutively, bringing it up, going through that process day after day of noticing the sensations in my body, I have exactly that experience where everything has a like all of what we're talking about, all of these emotions, all of these memories, all of these thoughts have a physical dimension to them, and you can really feel through how, as you work with the emotions or even just work with it at a physical level, it really transfigures, it transforms the physical component of it, transforms. So like I have there maybe I processed, maybe that's gone now. But I used to have this particular sort of shame emotion that would feel like a flush that went from here and would come back and go down. Like that was just one particular one that I noticed for a period of time. And yeah, it's just like it was a very particular emotion that had a very particular, and then I always felt it there. And through just feeling that my face and just feeling it come and feeling it go, that gave me the opportunity to separate myself from that
Hmm.
emotion. But it's really interesting what you said. I think I talked to Mufakral about this, the one episode you didn't watch so far, about, but maybe it was someone else. So you'll correct me because you've seen the other episodes. But about how the awareness is actually, it is always there. You can, you just don't have the ability to articulate it. That's one way of framing it, right? It's not
Hmm.
necessarily that I wasn't aware of all of these feelings I have going inside and on inside of me. I wasn't aware that I view the world this way. Like I think you're, in a way, you're aware of it, but you're forced to, you're aware of it, and you're kind of choosing not to process it. But when something happens, when you make a decision or a decision is made for you because everything in your life goes to crap, then it's not that suddenly you are aware of things you weren't aware of before. It's suddenly you are forced to work through it, or suddenly you are forced to articulate it. I think just starting to use words to capture it, I think that's part of the difference as well. But yeah, it's always there. Like I have that experience, and I did mention this in that other call, but of getting to some realization in my life, having a big transformation, and looking back and thinking, hey, I actually knew this the whole time, but I just would constantly make the decision, nah, I'm not going to think about that anymore. Nah. I'll just look over here instead. Like I look back, like on some level, I'm doing that all the time with other things now, but only when the shit hits the fan or something will I look back and watch how, oh my gosh, I didn't need to just put that aside over and over and over again. So sometimes I think the question to be asking when you're here and you want to be here is what's the beginning of this dip? What's the thing, if I'm watching myself carefully, that I just keep putting to the side, that I just keep, no, I'm not going to think about that. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to distract myself. Like, because there is something.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to like improvement, majority of us like to think in terms of adding, meaning that if I want to improve myself, I need to learn this, I need to learn extra this, like adding. But recently, what I learned is not just only adding, but a lot of it's actually subtracting and removing, like bad habits, rumination and stuff like that. Half of it is adding, but the other half is also subtracting and removing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one way that I would frame that is, and tell me if you agree, because awareness keeps coming up, right, as a really core part of this process. Um, and the subtracting comes through uh, becoming aware of some bad habit, or what's going behind some bad habit, becoming aware of some habit of thinking, becoming aware of some emotional reacting habit. Like, but just the awareness of it creates the subtraction. But I like the idea of, like, I really frame it as awareness is life, like awareness is aliveness, it's transformation. I mean, to be alive is to be aware, right? If you're not aware, you're not alive.
Right.
So awareness is life, and that stuff that's unconscious, therefore it's got a certain deadness to it, right? It's the degree that your life is made up of unconscious habits and unconscious behaviors, you're kind of half alive. And so to me, I still see it as additive, even in that subtraction. You're adding awareness into that space. You're adding aliveness into that space, and you're bringing. Because I have this view that, like, it's always better to frame things, I guess, in a positive way, because it helps you to know where you're going. Like, if I'm running, right, from this, there's a million different places I could end up, because all I know is where I'm not going. But if you know where you're going, and I think the destination to name there is awareness, then it's like, okay, I can have awareness as an alternative to this thing I'm trying to get rid of.
Hmm.
Has that been
Interesting.
true for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I also noticed that I guess let's say when something happened, let's say an event happened or something, there's a
Mm.
lot of information that comes out, sensations, feelings, thoughts, and judgment, criticism, whatever. All of those are there, and then we get to decide what do we want to be aware of. And what I realized much of the time, we aware of this the most, right? Is the brain, the thoughts, because it can come up reason that make us feel better. It can support us, or we can use it, for all sort of stuff. And over time, we use this too much, and we lack of awareness to the whole part of the body. It's almost like we put majority of the awareness up here, and majority of the time that you realize, people stress out and depressed and stuff, it's overusing of this, right? you know
Mm.
Everybody use their brain, but apparently sometimes we use it to literally depress ourselves and make ourselves sad, when we can use that same brain to make ourselves feel better.
Oh yeah, I mean it's such a. I like the way you put that. That people, obviously you're highlighting there the damage of being, so to speak, caught up in your head. But I like how you framed that the very same brain can be used to make us feel better as can be used to make us feel bad. That sort of Well, that just acknowledges the complexity of it, right? Um, because even something like awareness of our body, even all of these processes, they're totally rumination processes. They're thinking processes, but it's just a different form. Um, and what I like about sort of my, because I did a degree in psych, so I have a bit of an understanding of like brain regions and how these things connect. And when you talk about like noticing, and you talk about especially like noticing sensations in the body or different, that's really a different sort of brain region. Like when you're thinking about other people, when you're using words like just chatting to yourself, so to speak, in your head, like a lot of this is really, it's like amygdala stuff, like your fear automatic responding, and then it's like prefrontal cortex and identity stuff, and these are places that have sort of automaticness to them, I guess. Like this identity part called the singular gyrus, which is like part of the default mode network. That's when we're doing a lot of rumination and thinking about ourselves. One book that I've read by Dr. Amen, who's super controversial, but anyway, he says that that really the role of that is to cycle thoughts. Like that's the function of that part of the brain. And so, but when you bring like conscious awareness without the talking and you bring it to the body, that's actually activating completely different parts of the brain, and it's creating a connection between like your memories and your capacity to think and articulate and like deeper regions of the brain where these emotions are operating. And so it really breaks that isolated cycle that are in different spots, and it makes the whole brain more connected, and you're able to go, I can bring what I'm doing and seeing now, and I can activate a deep memory, and I can process that. So there's something really amazing that you're doing with your brain, when you go deep, when you are aware, and when you're aware of your body.
Yeah. Just one of the technique that I learned in there, I wouldn't say technique, just information is literally what you said, Frank. It is to learn how to, whenever the emotional part of the brain comes up, we want to kick on the other brain of the logical brain to work
Mm,
together, because people go through traumatic stuff tends to shut down one section of the brain. The logical side just goes
mm,
offline. That's why, whenever, let's say we had a situation where we get really strong anxiety and out of nowhere we can't think of anything, and then you realize, like, that's what the author's been talking about. He's right. I've been through these scenarios that, my brain feels like it doesn't want to work.
yeah. And it's funny, because I think the way you highlighted there, that it's having them active at the same time. It's that connection, because you can be as logical as you want. You can do a lot of thinking, but if you're not doing that in a space where the emotion is active, where you're seeing the emotion, where you're feeling the emotion, it doesn't do anything. Like I think a lot of us have the experience going through life. We're trying to solve some problem, and we get really caught up. We get really emotional. We do our bad habit, whatever it is, and then when we're not in that space, we'll be thinking, oh, this is why I'm doing that, and this is probably what I should be doing, and thinking about it. But that's not, nothing's going on there. There's no healing. There's no transformation, because those two functions need to come together. So yeah, really astute observation there.
Yeah, I screw up on that before. I remember I read a few emotional intelligent book, and I thought I understand emotional intelligence, and then later on I was like, no, I was nowhere near emotional intelligence. The most I had was just knowledge about emotional intelligence. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
because
right, absolutely.
because emotional intelligence, you got to be able to feel all of these. A person with high emotional intelligence, let's say an emotion will rise up, he's able to absorb it, metabolize it in healthy ways, and literally sit there with his emotions, and can actually question his own emotion versus then just reacting to it.
That's such a trap, like thinking that we have mastered something because we understand it intellectually. Um, Yeah, I'm certainly very, very susceptible to that. And yeah, that's such the kind of, in a way, that's the story of my life. But when it comes to handling emotions, I think, if it's not like, if it doesn't feel like step out into the wilderness, like if it doesn't feel like really heavy, if it's not really hard, you're not doing it. It's
Yeah,
not happening,
yeah.
and that's the difference. I mean, I've been trying to articulate that recently, like what is the difference between engaging with a problem and going nowhere with it, and we have a lot of ways of doing that, and then the way of engaging that creates transformation, and it's something like feeling out of your depth. that's
Hmm.
that's the way I would put it. If you don't feel out of your depth, then you're just at baseline.
Yeah. Um, like whenever we have emotion, like for some reason, let's say we run into a problem, we know that this can help us solve the problem for some reason because it has been doing it for so many times.
Mm.
But nobody say, "Oh, I want to sit on my feeling and hopefully it can solve my problem." As crazy as it sounds, that is the best way to solve
Yeah,
problems.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it won't be solved right away. But when using the mind, at least when we fantasize about the solution, we feel like we're solving the problem, right? It give us this, this false feeling of, just like, I feel much better. I think I know a way how to solve it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Imagination it's a gift and a curse, right? Because we can really
it,
like imagination is super powerful. We can imagine something's happen and then kind of trick ourselves into thinking, "Oh, job done. I imagined
yeah.
it, so that counts, right?" Um, yeah, I just what you're saying about it is totally unintuitive, and it's kind of like I think once when you do it, when you have experience processing things in that way, it's no longer unintuitive. It makes perfect sense, but it's hard to articulate, isn't it? That accepting things is the way to transform them. I mean, that's one way of articulating it, right? Like allowing yourself to be okay with, like being okay with it not being the way you want it to be. That's the beginning, right? Because then you're actually able to face it. I mean, you just step one is to break that habit of um, just because we have such an automatic habit of if we don't like something, we don't want to face it. So you have to be like, okay, it's okay. I feel really, really rubbish and I'm okay with that and I'm gonna not try to change that. I had this terrible experience and I'm gonna not try to fix that. Um, that's step one, just to stop ourselves from running away from it, right? And then suddenly we're working with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just agreeing with you, Frank.
Yeah, I saw this model, this like drawing. I really like visualizations. I'm kind of working on trying to master this skill myself, but like visualizations of ideas, like really simplistic visualizations, and this was one. I'm just doodling it real fast right now. Is that this? So it's like this is normal, right? You have something bad happen, some memory comes up, and you don't face it, and then there's just this baseline ongoing problem that continues with that. And then this is how to heal is like you have it comes up and then you're willing to face it at intensity for a little while. You don't instantly suppress it and then you slowly it diffuses and then it's gone. And I just thought like I saw someone present it visually like that and that made the unintuitive much more intuitive
Yeah.
to me at least.
The crazy thing about emotion is, the more we try to zoom in on it, then that's when it tries to run away. It's weird, but
Mm-hmm.
then when we try to fight it, for some reason it sticks more. Have you done like ice bath or cold shower?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's exactly what it is. Like, that like the more you fight the cold, the colder it gets. But
Oh
you
yeah.
know, the only way to go through it is literally feel the cold, and it was like, oh my god, this is cold. But after a while, it was like, huh, right? But if you
It's
try to
crazy.
tension it up, it's gonna get colder.
It's mad, and I mean, this is like that core Buddhist idea, right? It's like, well, one of the core Buddhist ideas is that suffering is not the experience. It's not what you're experiencing. It's resisting the experience. That's what I was coming up with. That's
Yeah.
that really like core Buddhist idea, and it's super unintuitive. And I feel like you can have a really, really long history in yourself of realizing that, whether you're doing practice, and this stuff's all really useful for learning it. Practices like mindfulness, cold showers, focusing and working with the feel, like holding your emotions. All of this stuff teaches you that. It teaches you that over and over and over again. But I feel like you can have such a rich learning history of that and still have that intuition that you really should fight something if you don't like it.
Yeah, it's fun.
I guess that's
Um,
just our genes or something. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, even pain itself is a little bit kind of weird. Like one time I fell really hard and I hit my knee, and I remember it hurt so bad. And I meditate on it, and something weird happened. I realized that at first, when you focus on the pain, the more you try to go to the sensation of where the hurt is, well, it hurt more and more and more. And out of nowhere, after 15 minutes, just
Yeah.
like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, so the body can feel the pain, but literally the person who experienced these pain can almost choose to really suffer with the feeling or not. It's almost like, the brain is pushing onto us, but through meditation, you realize that, hey, you also have the capacity to literally like cut it off. Now, of course, it requires great effort of concentration, right? That's why we can't concentrate all the time. There's a lot of effort involved, but with effort, literally, you focus on the pain, and eventually, it really greatly reduced or not even there anymore. It's the same thing
Yeah.
with ice bath, right? It gets cold as hell, and out of nowhere, the water moves, and like, whoa, that is cold. And when you settle back down, it's not cold anymore. It's like, huh, it
Yeah,
was
and there's so
there.
many different ways you can target this, right? I mean, people talk about all sorts, like even just things like, Wim Hof, obviously, he's the cold baths guy, but for him, it's really, it's okay, I'm going to, at the physiological level, I'm going to calm my body down. I'm going to make it so that I have a whole, like, a calm nervous system in response to this. And then that helps train you to accept and not react, or like face and not resist. And then there's awareness, and then there's like naming and labeling. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this. That's a system in like a lot of modern therapy and psychology. It's like just labeling the feeling. Like there's all these different ways that you can approach that goal of, can I be in something that every instinct initially is telling me to get away from, to suppress, to fight, and not be in a mode of fighting. And I guess the reason people have come up with so many ways to do that is because it's really rewarding when you can achieve it. But I've had the exact same experience as you with pain, where in moments when I've had an injury, I've had a lot of pain. In some of them, I mean, again, most of the time, I'm just but every now and then, awareness, and I just feel it, and then eventually, it's more intense for sure, and then eventually it goes away if I'm able to maintain that calm awareness. But is it the same for you, that really it's not like the sensation changes? It's like you just stop minding it or something. It's kind of hard to describe, but you realize, like, because yeah, you realize that, oh, it's not just this vague aura of awful, right? That's what it feels like when you cut your finger real deep or whatever it is. It's just this bad signal coming from that area. Um, but when you focus in, you realize there's layers to it. There's just the feeling of your skin there. There's the coldness of the air on your open wound. There's all of this stuff, but it becomes like, instead of being general bad, it just becomes detailed. And that's the same feeling that was always there, but because you are understanding it in a detailed way or something, even though none of the feelings have changed, it's just not horrible anymore. Yeah, even though it doesn't change. So I find that interesting.
I like the way you put it. Yeah, I think you're definitely, that's a really good way to say it. Because
What,
feel
the
like
vague aura of awful that you're referring to?
you're right about like it's there, but it's almost like just like you said, rather than like attached to it, you just kind of observe it from like a third person point of view. It's like,
Mm.
okay, this pain there, just like just like observing through a third person point of view, rather than be like, hey, this is like kind of like, I guess, attached or identify with it, and then we feel like we got to protect it, and we tend stuff, and it creates all sort of pain and stuff.
What do you do? Like, what's your ritual or your habit or your yeah that kind of allows you to keep moving on this growth journey? I mean, it sounds like for you, you're really growth really is about that working through stuff through awareness, just working through it. How do you, in the up and downs of your life, how do you ensure that you're always growing in that way?
Um, um, there was a quote back in the days. They said you change by the people you meet or the book you read. So, if we
Mm.
want to keep changing, read good books and meet good people. Now, you can also read bad books and meet bad people. So I don't know if that line's 100% true, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But yeah, meeting people who want to improve themselves, being part of my form, right? Where everybody's trying to improve themselves, and so so you kind of get help from the group and stuff like that, and of course reading a little bit here there. And prior to me working on myself before, I feel like if I'm a bolt, my bolt got like maybe 12, 13 holes on it, and I got about 10 fingers, and I feel like I keep plugging these things, and there's always water keep coming to my boat, and I constantly gotta do all this, and just drove me crazy, right? And then you know one day you realize you start working yourself a little bit, you realize that, I feel like this solved a lot more problems, right? I work on
Yeah.
myself. I can communicate better. I can build better relationship. I learn more about myself, about others. For some reason, we work on ourselves. We get to enjoy it, and those around us get to enjoy it as well.
Mm.
And
Mm.
if you got people around you, the best way to literally teach them is become an awesome version of yourself, and they see it, and then they said, "Huh." Now I want to listen to him, but if I was still my crappy self, ain't nobody want to look at me and say, "Well, I want to change," or even if I want to give them advice, they'll say, "Well, we don't see your
Who are
life
you?
getting
Yeah.
any better." I don't think I want to take your advice. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like I agree. Something that was a really key learning for me is that whatever kind of problem you have, whatever anxiety you have in life, like anything, whether it's someone's wronged you and you want to get back at them, whether it's you want to honor someone who's passed away, which happened for me, whether it's you want to be good to other people, whether it's when you have a good life, whether being growing into your best self is like the solution to all of those things, right? Like that's just going really full in with these are my values and I'm going to live them out like really hard. I'm going to just go head first into life, values first. That's just resolves all of that. And I really like that visual you gave me of the 10 fingers and the 13 holes. That's hilarious. And I think it does really speak to another thing that's for me really necessary for growth, which is you really need to be able to sit with um, and kind of ignore the signals you're always getting. Like you're always getting these signals telling you this is important. You need to react to this. You always there's this sense of urgency in life telling you, telling to react, telling you to make this problem go away, telling you to fix this, telling you to be this, and with you getting that from yourself or from other people, and it really takes a capacity to ignore that in order to really make it go away. Like think so with the boat, for example, you have to move away from plugging all the holes or scooping out all the water to fixing. But in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to sit there and work on it whilst all of this water's streaming in, whilst you're slowly going down and down. And so I think that's that's the shift between work that is keeping you in the same place. It's those continual reactions, and then that proactiveness, which is work that brings transformation, and then suddenly your boat's floating, and suddenly you don't have to. It takes I think it takes a capacity to be okay with not solving all of these short-term problems that tell you that they really, really matter, or not reacting to them. We're at the end of our call time. I don't know if you've noticed. It's a little bit after 12:30. This has been great. I really enjoyed. I feel like there were. Yeah, I said before we called. I suspect there's some hidden gems there, and I didn't really know that. Of your journey with mindfulness, with just this it was really interesting for me, really valuable for me, understanding the role you've found of awareness and unlearning and facing things to create real change, real transformation, rather than all this just additive reactive stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And I think I'm gonna take that with me. And I think something I really want to take from this call is facing more. Like, I do mindfulness, I do a little bit of that, but it's just another reminder for me of just sinking into the uncomfortable stuff. If I really want to feel that growth, sinking into the really sitting with the uncomfortable stuff. So yeah, just thanks again. And yeah, in relation to all of that, is there one last sort of? I mean, I feel like your answer to the last question was really valuable, but is there one last sort of piece of advice, like a tool, a strategy, or a key idea that, in relation to everything we've been talking about, you'd like to leave me with, or the audience with? Something you want to say there?
Sure, yeah. I would say when something bad happened in life, these are opportunity for something to work on.
Mm,
For example, let's say you got angry and yelled at somebody, right? It might be in a bad event, but guess what? That's the time for us to see that, we need to work with our anger, right?
yeah, yeah,
So like, let's say we lose a job, divorce, all of that. It might seems like, it's a bad event, and it is. But I think it also provide opportunity to work on things, right? And and the funny thing is, sometimes we do get intervention from all the sources that we don't know about. Like, you know, we heard about active imagination, but I also went through forced imagination, where, an event happened where I closed my eyes and these images forced themselves upon me, versus me have to imagine these things. But it just
mm,
happened 3 times in a row, and I stick with it. So I would say sometimes bad things happen. It does come with opportunity as well, and bad
yeah,
and unfortunate events in life.
yeah. Kind of like we were saying earlier, to get here, you have to do this. Maybe you're saying every one of these has the potential, right, to take you up here.
Yeah.
No, that's
And
awesome.
I got
Yeah.
another one. What doesn't kill you will make your bones stronger.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Make your bones denser. Yeah, man. Awesome. Okay, yeah. Hey, thanks again. Thanks again for this conversation, man. This has been great. Yeah. And as I say on each call, we could definitely get this conversation live on Mindform. I'm starting to post these within a week or two now, of publishing them. So we'll have that out there, and we can keep this conversation going. And I'd love it if you just posted something about, maybe I will, about what we've been talking about here, because I'd love to see what other people have to say. Um, but yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming on to the Mindform podcast. To anyone who's been listening, thank you for listening. And yeah, have a good one. Cheers, man.
Cool. Thanks, Frank.
Bye bye.
Thanks for listening to the Mindform Podcast. I'm Ryan A. Bush, founder and author of Designing the Mind and creator of Mindform. Mindform is an exclusive community and training platform for sculpting your psychological software. Members get access to a group of like-minded psychotechs, including all of our guests on this podcast, gamified growth tools, events and retreats, and a collection of transformative programs for mental health and self-mastery. You can learn more and apply to join at mindform.io/podcast. I hope to see you inside.